tough. He issued a harsh warning for North Korea. Let's listen.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing, and able, but hopefully this will not be necessary. That's what the United Nations is all about. That's what the United Nations is for. Let's see how they do. It is time for North Korea to realize that the denuclearization is its only acceptable future.
All right, so let's talk about this. Brett Schaefer is a fellow in international regulatory affairs at the Heritage Foundation, and David Rhoda is a CNN global affairs analyst. Welcome to both of you. This was this was a tough speech. What is the Trump doctrine? What did you take away from it? And I'll begin with you, David.
This is the Trump doctrine in terms of sort of, I think, America first in a very kind of bellicose tone where there's a threat here to destroy a country with a population of 25 million. To be fair to President Trump, this North Korea problem is incredibly serious. It has been, not dealt with by other presidents. But I worry that this is the kind of arrogant American tone that George W. Bush used, and it can alienate other countries. We need allies to effectively confront North Korea. So I'm not sure that this tone is really going to work well with other nations and people in other countries who watch this speech or are watching it now.
Well, Brett, in listening to what Trump said in that speech about North Korea and Rocket Man and wiping North Korea off the face of the planet, does that mean we're going to war?
Well, I don't know what it means. I think the president made quite clear that it's unacceptable for North Korea to continue to pursue the path that it's going down. And they're trying to work diplomatically through the UN Security Council to put pressure on that regime to abandon its current path and to work with China, Russia, other countries to elicit that outcome. But he also made quite clear that a nuclear-armed North Korea with the capacity to strike the United States is an unacceptable outcome for this presidency and this administration. And so he wanted to make that quite clear, and I think he did.
Well, David, interestingly enough, Trump began his speech before the United Nations body touting the strength of the American military. He says the military, the U.S. military, is the strongest it's ever been. In regards to what he said about North Korea, what message is he sending to this body?
I think that the United States will use military force if, Korea will not give up its nuclear weapons. How do you do that? Again, North Korea is a nation of 25 million people. We invaded Iraq, we toppled that government, and then we had to, take care of that country, which didn't go well. He also talked about it, and I'm sorry to jump ahead, but he was very critical of Iran. He also sort of hinted at regime change in Iran. Is that another country we're going to invade? And another country will somehow run and administer? So he is correct in that, again, North Korea, it's extremely dangerous. No one has really dealt with this for many years. Iran is promoting terrorism in different parts of the Middle East, but when you threaten military force, people expect you to actually use it. So is he prepared to use it? Are we going to invade, two different countries and then try to govern them?
Okay, you mentioned Iran because he actually signaled he wants an end to the Iran deal, and he did talk about, it reminded me of George W. Bush's axis of evil, right? But anyway, I want to play what Trump said before the United Nations body about Iran, and then I'll pose a question to you, Brett. Let's listen.
The Iranian government masks a corrupt dictatorship behind the false guise of a democracy. It has turned a wealthy country with a rich history and culture into an economically depleted rogue state whose chief exports are violence, bloodshed, and chaos. The Iran deal was one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into. Frankly, that deal is an embarrassment to the United States and I don't think you've heard the last of it, believe me.
So here's the thing, Brett. I mean, many Americans probably believe the Iran deal was just between Iran and the United States. That's not true. Six nations in total signed the Iran deal, including the UK and France, including China and Russia. So how would Mr. Trump pull out of the Iran deal? And if he says he's still into diplomacy in regards to North Korea, right? This Iran deal supposedly stopped the Iranians from making nuclear weapons.
Well, that's actually not the accomplishment of the Iranian nuclear deal. Iran still has its nuclear capacity. They've basically just frozen them into place. The UN, the United States, is not able to inspect military sites in particular, but other sites at will within Iran. So we actually don't know what Iran is doing currently in terms of its nuclear program. That uncertainty, the failure of that deal to actually resolve Iranian nuclear program in terms of U.S. concerns and international concerns is precisely why the president says that it's a bad deal.
So just a last question about this to you, David. So let's say the United States pulls out of the Iran deal. What do our allies say?
Europe doesn't want us to. Russia actually wants us to stay in it. And I would say more broadly, this is a very aggressive, very interventionist foreign policy, this speech that he's outlining. And many people who voted for him, supported his call for the United States not getting entangled in so many foreign countries. So, it's a striking tone. It's a very interventionist tone. And again, it's reminiscent of George W. Bush. And I think many of President Trump's supporters, did not want don't want more foreign invasions involving U.S. troops. So I don't know how he executes. I don't know how he delivers on the rhetoric today, on the threats.
All right, I have to end it there. Brett Schaefer, David Rowe, thanks so much. Right now, another monster storm is churning through the Caribbean. Hurricane Maria has strengthened to a Category 5 storm, and it's barreling toward islands that were just wrecked by Hurricane Irma. Overnight, the storm's 160-mile-per-hour winds ripped through the island.